Yesterday, October 7, 2024, the Israelis marked 1 year since the Hamas attack on Israel, which killed 1,200 persons and took hundreds hostage. Arise correspondent Yolanda Robert tells us more.
A solemn remembrance of the devastation that occurred has left thousands in a lifetime commemoration of their loved ones. President Joe Biden and First Lady Jill were joined by Rabbi Aaron Alexander of Addis Israel Congregation for a candle lighting in the White House in remembrance of the victims of the October 7 attacks. In Milan, a mural erected in memory of the victims of the Hamas attack on southern Israel was vandalized and defaced a few hours after it was installed. While a fountain on a square in central Tel Aviv turned into a makeshift memorial as Israelis marked the October 7th anniversary. In Nigeria, Arise News hosted the Israeli and Palestinian ambassadors to Nigeria in separate programs to discuss the ongoing conflict and its effects 1 year later. Israel's retaliatory strikes have shattered Gaza, leading to over 27,000 Palestinian deaths. Gaza faces a dire humanitarian crisis with a widespread destruction, food shortages, and no access to electricity or clean water. Hostage negotiations and brief ceasefires have provided some relief, but the region remains engulfed in violence, displacing thousands and leaving a broken health system, with warnings of disease outbreaks being amongst the main highlights of the crisis over the year. Yolanda Roberts, Arise News.
Sternbach, Chief Rabbi of Lagos, and Ronya Man, an Israeli filmmaker. Well, thank you very much for joining us on the morning show. Well, yesterday was a day of remembrance. The day Hamas forces attacked Israel, 400 young persons lost their lives at the Nova Music Festival. Hundreds, about 100 or more Israelis were held hostages by Hamas. And Israel yesterday was saying basically that the pain will never leave us. But on the other side, on the Palestinian side, the people of Palestine are also saying that Israel has violated all principles of international law beyond the right of Israel to defend itself. But both of you are Israelis, so let's stay in that corner and just ask you how you feel 1 year after, and where you think this war is no longer a conflict. It's a blown-out war on 3 fronts. How you feel that this is the situation. Rabbi Sternbach, Chief Rabbi of Lagos, let's start with you.
Thank you, Dr. Rubin, for having us here again. I just want to make a short correction. I'm not an Israeli, I'm an American citizen, but I'm a proud Jew. It says in the Bible that the Jewish people are Am Kadosh, a holy nation. And we are here in this world to bring morality to the world. That's what the Jewish people's purpose is on this world. In Arabic, they say, Ahlul al-Kitab. We are the people of the book. We are here to teach and to perform and to act in a moral way. So the Jewish people are ordained by God himself how to live a life here in this world. And that is what defines life. And that's what creates life, by being good Jews, strong Jews, following the principles that God has taught us. And that's how we bring light to the rest of the world and peace to everybody.
Well, American Jews, Israeli Jews, is there much of a difference? It's the same, ideological orientation. But Ronya Man, let's hear from you. How do you feel 1 year after?
So first of all, thank you for having us today. Thank you for inviting us to speak about this. I would like to correct you, however, Dr. Rubin. It wasn't, well, I feel like the numbers are important. There were over 1,200 people who died on that day. Not 400 or 500, 1,200 people out of 9 million is like 36,000 Nigerians out of 220 million. And there were 250 hostages, not 100. 250 hostages
Okay,
taken.
100, about 100 are still in captivity.
Yes, that's correct. That's correct.
What I was referring to.
Yes, a year later, and we still have almost half of the hostages still in captivity, most of which we don't know what their situation is. Most of them are young girls and young men, and some children still. It's a very, it's been a very shaky kind of period for us. One day we wake up hurting. One day we wake up angry. One day we wake up hopeful, wanting to rebuild ourselves. When you say Israeli Jews, American Jews, it's all the same religion. It's not as a religion, it's a tribe. The Jews are a tribe, which is why we're so connected all over the world. Just like Nigerians feel connected to other Nigerians in diaspora, right? So we share a common historical bond, a common family bond, blood bond. When the Ethiopians came and said, we are Jewish, there are DNA tests that shows that we share the same DNA. So they were tested, yes, you are Jewish, and they were welcomed into the Jewish nation. I guess that's why you see a lot of Jews around the world with great support to what's happening to the Jews in Israel, and with a big cry about what happened to the Jewish tribe on October 7th last year.
All right. Thank you so much, Ronya. I'll start with you. I remember that just a few days or weeks following that attack, we had you here in the studio, and it was an emotional interview. Now, 1 year afterwards, how would you say the response from Israel has been? Because, yes, it's not about numbers, but we've also had about over 40,000 Palestinians killed as well. And so on both sides, there have been devastating losses. What would you say about that? And then Rabbi Sternbach, since you talked about the Bible, also talks about peace and justice. In line with that, has the response been, is it justifiable? Is that in pursuit of peace as well? So I'll start with you, Ronya.
Yes, it was exactly a year ago, because we came about 2 or 3 days after the attack onto the show. And I remember that day very, very well. It's a very long debate that's been going on, right, all over the world. And I always like to, there's a wise reporter who said just recently, the best way to analyze the situation is to compare it to take the statements that have been made, whether they're factual or not, doesn't matter, but the statements that have been made by each side, then compare them to known situations around the world throughout history. History is here to learn from it, not just to remember. And like I said, 1,200 Israelis being massacred on the same day is equivalent to 36,000 Nigerians, right? Now, allow me to take you a few years back.
Please, go ahead.
The Jewish and Arab tribes lived together in Palestine under the British Mandate, okay? They both drove the mandate away and wanted to form their own states. And they were both given states by the United Nations. There was an Arab state and an Israeli state with borders in 1947. Now imagine, honestly, Nigeria and Israel share a very interesting common history, because Nigeria also got its independence from the British Mandate, right?
Yes.
And some 200 tribes were brought together under the same borders. Now imagine one of these tribes said, I don't want to live under the Nigerian government. No, I want my own state. And they would repeatedly, over 75 years, well, 64 for Nigeria, right? Be terrorizing Nigerian civilians, fighting for what they call resistance because they want their own state. Imagine that tribe coming to any region in Nigeria and massacring 36,000 Nigerians with rapes, with beheading people and babies, burning them alive, etc., in one day. How would you want your Nigerian government to respond? What would you do to that tribe? What do you think Nigerians, what do you think the people of those families that were hurt would do to that tribe?
All right. On that note, let me come to Rabbi Sternbach. The same kind of question, and perhaps in terms of peace and justice, the response of Israel in the last 1 year, over 41,000 Palestinians have been killed. What's your take on this?
So, us Jewish people, we have been around for thousands of years. The most recent attack is it's just recent. We've survived the Egyptians, what they tried doing to us, like it's set over in the Bible. We've survived the Romans. We have survived the Assyrians, the Greeks, the Spanish Inquisition. We survived the Germans, and we're going to survive this thing as well. We must remember that Jewish people are not defined by our sufferings. We're not defined by our history, our bad history. We are a very future-looking nation. They call us the startup nation because we're always innovating and looking to the future. And that's a very strong message that we must give to ourselves and to other people who are similar plight as ours. Look to the future. You know, Israel and Nigeria received their independence in very similar times. And Israel progressed leaps and bounds. And therefore, Israel has an obligation to share those lessons with Nigeria and other countries to help them and train them, encourage their students to come and learn in Israel, have exchange programs with Israeli professors coming to Nigeria and helping students, giving them the confidence and the knowledge to build themselves up. We have to be forward-looking. I want to mention something. We have tons and tons and tons of Israelis here in this country. And we also have many, many Lebanese here in this country, in Nigeria. And one thing is so beautiful, how they work together, they live side by side, and they do not agree. They do not agree with each other, but there's a respect. They tell each other good morning, they shake hands, they do business, they care for each other in the hospital. That is the message that we need to bring to the Middle East. How the two communities here work so well together to go back and take that message to the rest of the world and back home as well. There's one Israeli guy here, Mr. Eli. His family, his father is a survivor of Auschwitz and a half a dozen other extermination camps. For those, I'm referring to the World War II, where the Germans tried to annihilate and exterminate all Jews. Not Israeli Jews, all Jews. And his father was taken by the Germans from Benghazi to Italy, throughout Germany. When the Holocaust was over, the guy was penniless. Mr. Eli's father was penniless. He had nothing to him. Maybe he had a towel to wrap around his waist, and that's all. He heard there's a new state of Israel. He got on a boat, got to Israel. As soon as he got off the boat, he went, I'm a new man. I'm not a refugee. I'm a free man. I'm going to build myself up. And look how strong he made his family, that his son came to Nigeria and is educating Nigerians and building them up. And he has such a unique program in his company that he says that any of my employees that wants to get a college education, I'm paying for it A to Z. He wants it. And I asked him, Eli, if they go out and study, they'll never come back to you. He said, good, they should be my competitors because that's what's good for Nigeria. And that's the message that we need to give ourselves, Nigeria. We need to educate ourselves, look to the future, look how we can be good to our friends, and look how we can be nice to each other. And that's the message of October 7th.
Rabbi, I mean, that's a very powerful message. First of all, like I said the last time you were here, I know you were personally affected, Ronya. You lost people. My commiserations. I know it's very terrible to heal through that. And I feel your pain. And I carry with you the picture of the tears you shed on that day with me every time in my head.
Thank you.
But also, a very respected Nigerian writer who's a friend of mine, Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, used to say something. And she'll tell me, Rufai, be weary of the danger of a single story. There's another story, apart from the one you told, Ronya. There's been occupation. The Supreme Court of Israel even ruled that Israel was holding the West Bank under belligerent occupation after '67 war. Gaza was just left alone in 2005 in occupation. There's been killing on both sides. All the wars across the years, Israelis too have done a lot of killings. We've seen people decimated. We know what Gaza is today. And when you talked about the 12,000 lives that passed, and you said it's equivalent to about the 40,000.
200.
Huh?
1,200.
1,200 is equivalent to 40,000. No, because the people in Gaza too have futures. They want a life too, just like you, Rabbi. They want to be able to impact. But they are caught in the middle of this. Tel Aviv and other areas stands in Israel. But look at Gaza today, it's in rubbles. And we see the pictures everywhere. So that's the balancing act of the story. But I want to talk peace this day because I think this war has gone on for too long. What's your take about the talk about the ceasefire? What's your take about Netanyahu and all of this refusal for a ceasefire? Because we are ready to talk peace and we want to move forward. I'll come to you, Ronya, first. And afterwards, Rabbi, I'll come to you.
There's a famous American Lebanese journalist called Brigitte Gabriel. She went on the Piers Morgan show just recently, but she's been on many shows since the war started. And she's a very loud voice advocating Israel. And she was telling us just recently how when Israel left Gaza in 2005, it displaced its own people, the government of Israel, rooted out its own people out of Gaza. They dug out their bones of their buried ones as well from the cemeteries because they knew what the Arabs would do to those cemeteries once they are left in Gaza. But they left them all their greenhouses, and that region was exporting 50,000 flowers to Europe every year. They left them their greenhouses, flowers, fruits, everything. The next day, the Palestinians burnt all the synagogues and the greenhouses. The next day, that month, there were electoral elections in Gaza, and one of the women that was chosen as part of the Hamas parliament, her name is Nidal. They call her Nidal. Her name is Mariam Farhat Nidal because her eldest son was Nidal. And the reason she was chosen was because she came out and said and cried and said, I gave 3 sons to the cause. 3 of my sons died as martyrs to the cause. I have 7 more to give. She had she was shown putting suicide bomb belts on her children, sending them off. They were killed in suicide bombings, killing civilians in Israel, her first 3 sons. And she said, I have 7 more to give. So this is the ideology you have in Gaza. She was chosen by the people to represent them. Do you understand? So when you say the people of Gaza want a future, this is the problem that we're seeing. Indoctrination to being martyrs. You see videos of children in kindergarten. You know what their games are? Hostage situation. You see the little kids just sitting like this and the other kids holding guns and the teacher is actually showing them how to hold their guns. This is what they're playing in kindergarten.
So you think there can't be peace?
Because
of time, you think there cannot be peace? And what are the efforts of peace?
There is a big problem, okay, with the international community, because a lot of taxpayers' monies around the world are going to organizations such as UNRWA. UNRWA is a refugee organization dedicated solely to the Palestinian refugees. There is another UN refugee organization for all the other refugees in the world that gives them a support system up until the point they reach a citizenship in another country. But UNRWA sustains the refugee status for Palestinians throughout all generations. So even if your father and mother have been granted citizenship in Europe, they are still, you as a child and a grandchild is still a refugee getting funding from the world.
So you say,
so they are sustaining this victim kind of status in Gaza.
They've put forward ceasefire agreements. Netanyahu has not taken it.
Where are the hostages? How do you have they given us the hostages back?
Another war front with Hezbollah in Lebanon. And they've put forward ceasefire agreements. Netanyahu is not taking it. Rabbi, I want you to say something about that as we start to wrap up. Why are you guys not taking this ceasefire?
So I want to say the quickest and shortest way to peace is by Jewish people standing strong and being proud Jews, walking on the streets with a yarmulke, with a kippah, skull cap, by being a good Jew. And why do I say this? Because I see it clearly in myself. Here in Nigeria, I believe is one of the only countries in the world where there is no anti-Semitism. All the other countries, Europe especially, Europe #1, you have strong anti-Semitism. Even in Iran, they don't suffer from anti-Semitism like they do in Europe.
Okay, Rabbi,
the Jews of Europe.
Cut to peace. That was a question.
What I'm getting to is, I live here. In my house in Apapa, there's many Lebanese there.
Rabbi,
we are very respectful with one another.
Rabbi,
they tell me good morning. I wish them good morning. And we don't agree, but there's respect.
Rabbi and Royan, we need to go. But before we go, we need to balance, the conversation. Royan, do you think a two-state solution can bring peace? Because that's what has been on the table. And you, Rabbi, American election, November 5. Do you think that the Israeli politics, Middle Eastern politics, will likely determine the outcome of that election? And to what extent? Very briefly, Royan, quickly, two-state solution, because that's what the international community seems to have agreed upon.
I really think that there's a lot of shared history between Israel and Nigeria. So I think, it is what it is. What I'm trying to do is show you through your eyes, through your lens, okay, the situation in the Middle East, because you haven't been there, you've never, lived there. I don't know if you've ever visited the region. So
I've been to Israel.
You've been to Israel twice. I'm very happy to hear. And how was the experience?
No, it's not about Nigeria. Answer the question. Two-state solution. Is that the path to peace?
You don't want it? It's not a path to peace?
No, it is a path to peace. It's a very great path to peace. Of course it is.
Anyway,
allow me to interject.
Hasn't the rabbi...
The American political scene is not determining. And there's a very simple reason. Because, like the Arabs say and says in the Quran, Ahl al-Kitab, we are the nation of the book. The Bible, the Torah that I have here in the studio, this is what defines. We are not under the rules of nature. God is the one that determines things, how they will turn out. Doesn't matter which political figure will rule America. The Jewish people will be here. We are Am Yisrael Chai. We will always here. We will always be here. And I encourage anybody with malicious intent to put that aside, because we will always be here. So let's be friends. Just like we do it in Nigeria, we are friends with people that are not agreeing with us, but we are friends. Yes, that's the way to peace. And that's the way to everlasting peace.
Okay, Rabbi. Okay, Royan, we want to thank you very much for joining us on the morning show. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.